my name is Scarlett, and I'm an atheist and a skeptic, and lately I've been looking at a lot of arguments for God, and I'm wondering just how many arguments are there out there. This guy, Peter Kreeft, has 20 on his website, and if you ask me, that's 20 too many. Are any of them good? Well, so far, I haven't found one. And if you've been here before, you know this is a real-life philosopher who got his PhD at Fordham and who has taught at Boston College. Wouldn't you think they would be better? But maybe it's hard to have any kind of philosophical objectivity when you really, really want to believe. Let's get going. So what argument are we dealing with today? It is number 18, the argument from religious experience. And this one comes with these links out to audio and book where Kreeft and Nevins dialogue on experiencing charismatic gifts, catalyst to more interactive two-way prayer. And I'm just like totally curious about why that two-way is in quotes. So maybe next time I'll go out there and figure out what they're doing out there. The links promise visions, tongues, and healing. So you know that's got to be good. And by good, I mean like really, really awful and probably a little dumb. But I'll check it out and I'll see, and I might bring that back for you. So how does Kreeft start his argument? And just so you know, that's Gina asking for food, so I'm going to take a little break. You won't miss anything because I'll be right back to start the argument. So that's one happy kitty. She is munching away on some kibble now. All right, enough kitty stuff. Let's get on to Kreeft's argument. Some sort of experience lies at the very core of most people's religious faith. Most of our readers have very likely had such an experience. If so, you realize in a way no one else can its central importance in your life. Now, I have to say that I did have what I would call religious experiences, but I don't think that they were caused by anything supernatural now because I've had similar experiences from totally secular causes. So yeah, there might be something else going on. But let's see what else Kreeft has for us. That realization is not itself an argument for God's existence. Well, that's good, Kreeft. In fact, in the light of it, you would probably say there is no need for arguments. You know, one would think. You know, if we have the experience of God, that should be enough. If we have the evidence that there's something there, we wouldn't need these arguments. We wouldn't be sitting here right now. But I digress. But there is, in fact, an argument for God's existence constructed from the data of such experiences. Now, I'm not sure if we have data right now because so far what I'm hearing is that there are some anecdotes. And when you construct evidence from anecdotes, you got to be very careful. Like social scientists train a long time to learn how to deal with self-reported data. It's not as easy as saying like, oh, this person said this, so it's absolutely true. But you know, there is data there. It's just got to be careful. I think we're overselling it so far. But let's keep going. It is not an argument which moves from your own personal experience to your own affirmation that God exists. As we said, you most probably have no need for such an argument, right? Instead, this argument moves in another direction, from the widespread fact of religious experience to the affirmation that only a divine reality can adequately explain it. All right, so here we have, I guess what counts as data for Kreeft is a bunch of people said some stuff, and these experiences must be explained by a deity, a divine reality. There's no other way to explain it. You know, just from this first paragraph, I can think of lots of ways to explain the fact that people have what they think of as encounters with some divine reality. But we'll get to that later. Let's see where Kreeft goes. It is difficult to state this argument deductively, but it might fairly be put as follows. Premise 1. Many people of different eras and of widely different cultures claim to have had an experience of the divine. Okay? And I think we can agree that this is true. People claim that they've encountered something, a deity, a supernatural, miracles happen, whatever. The deal is, though, that those experiences also varied widely. They weren't the same experience, right? So somebody that worships the Hindu gods would have a different experience from those that worship the Greek gods, and probably how it felt to be an early Israelite sacrificing something, after your wife gave birth or whatever, that would have been a different experience. All right, but let's keep going. Premise 2. It is inconceivable that so many people could have been so utterly wrong about the nature and content of their own experience. Inconceivable.
Inconceivable. Inconceivable.
It is just inconceivable that they could have been so utterly wrong. I said this in the last video on the argument from common consent, and I'll say it again here, is I'm willing to grant that people had some experience. They felt something. Something happened in them that they call this divine experience. My question just comes, how did we determine that that was the divine? That's the issue that I have here, and I don't think it's inconceivable. People have these wonderful emotional experiences. They feel connected. They feel like they're in touch with the divine. And I have felt that too when I was a theist. The deal is, though, that I've had that experience without the trappings of any kind of religion, and they came from things like reading just totally secular books and music, totally secular music, and just observing nature. I've had those same experiences, no God involved. So how do you know that you had the divine, this experience of the divine? I also have to say, some people claim that they have seen figures, and I don't know what to make of that. If they had a hallucination, if they encountered somebody else that did something, and I don't know, if it's misremembered, I don't know what to make of that. Still willing to say that something happened. It's just, is the memory correct, or is the explanation that they've attached to the thing correct? But let's keep going. So according to Kreeft, it's just inconceivable that people could be wrong about this, their own experience. So number 3, the conclusion, therefore, there exists a divine reality which many people of different eras and of widely different cultures have experienced. And I didn't even point out that this divine is in quotes, and so what does that even mean? Like, are we talking about the same thing? So when I see something like this, something put in quotes, it just makes me wonder if we're talking about the same thing. Maybe we're talking about something different, and it's just our imagination again. But more importantly, when people talk about the divine, they are talking about widely different things. Like, what the divine is for a Buddhist is very different from what the divine would have been from an ancient Greek, or from a Hindu, and from a Christian, or a Muslim, or even the ancient Israelites. They're all talking about something different when they're talking about the divine. All right, but let's move on and see where we go after this. Does such experience prove that an intelligent creator God exists? Oh, so now we actually are trying to prove an intelligent creator God, which not every religion that experiences the divine believes in. They don't believe in the Christian form of this intelligent creator God. Anyway, but I guess that's where we're going. On the face of it, this seems unlikely. Well, I'm glad you're pointing this out because, all you know is that you've come into contact with something, a feeling, an emotion. Maybe you saw or heard something that may or may not have been there. Maybe you've interpreted something. Maybe you have a bad memory. But yeah, I think it is very unlikely. Good on you, Kreeft, for pointing it out. For such a God does not seem to be the object of all experiences called religious. Yes, very good. And I like the religious in quotes. I would like a little bit more clarity on why stuff is in quotes. But anyway, that's just me, I guess. But still, he is the object of many. Okay, so that's enough? Like, how many is many? A little more clarity on what we're talking about, what this number means, because I feel a little slippage from people of all times and places have experienced something that they call divine to now it's my God. And how do we know that? How many constitutes many? All right, let's keep going. That is, many people understand their experience that way. They are, quote, united with, or, quote, taken up into a boundless and overwhelming knowledge and love capitalized for some reason, a love that fills them with itself but infinitely exceeds their capacity to receive. And I have to say here, I never experienced such a thing. Like, what I experienced when I had religious beliefs, like, I felt some kind of ineffable emotion, I felt connected to things, but I didn't necessarily feel love, and I definitely didn't feel like I knew something or was filled with knowledge, capital or not capital. I don't know. So anyway, this was not my experience as a Christian growing up, as a Catholic, which I think Crave started as. I'm not sure that this is most Christians' experience when they think that they've encountered the divine, but you can let me know in the comments below how you felt. If you had a quote-unquote experience with the divine that now you think was just like an emotion that you had during some service for some reason, let me know in the comments. I'd like to hear that. So anyway, we go back here. Or so they claim. The question is, are we to believe them? And I think that's a really good question. Well, I guess to clarify, I think the good question is, are we to believe the claim that their experiences come from whatever kind of divine, a creator God or not, this knowledge and love or whatever it is? That's the thing that we need to question. Again, I don't have a problem accepting that people felt a thing, that they're telling me their experience. It's just, what does that experience mean? We'll come back to this in a minute. Let's keep going. There is an enormous number of such claims. Either they are true or not. That's all fine. I have no problem with that. In evaluating them, we should take into account 1, the consistency of these claims. Are they self-consistent as well as consistent with what we know otherwise to be true? 2, the character of those who make these claims. Do these persons seem honest, decent, trustworthy? And 3, the effects these experiences have had in their own lives and the lives of others. Have these persons become more loving as a result of what they experienced, more genuinely edifying, or alternatively, have they become vain and self-absorbed? I don't think this number 3 is really important at all. Like, who these people are now, I don't think that that tells us anything about what they experience. And by the way, there are just plenty of Christians who I think are completely narcissistic, self-absorbed. They have a real cult of personality kind of personality. And, so it doesn't mean that some of the things that they say are true or not true or anything like that. I do think number 2, taking in the character of the people who make the claims, there are people who lie out there, so it's kind of good to suss those people out. And number 1, the consistency of these claims. This is an interesting one. Maybe if everybody had the same experience of the divine, we might ponder this a little bit more. But what did it feel like to be an ancient Israelite sacrificing on the altar, thinking that you really are doing something that your God has commanded? What kind of divine experience did the Maenads have in their bacchanalian frenzies? What about the people who do meditation and who think that they're going to become one with the universe or achieve enlightenment or whatever? What is their experience of the divine? And is it the same as all these others? What is a Christian today experiencing when they go to church? What's the experience of a Catholic confessing their sins? So I guess my point here, and it's probably clear, is that I think that people experience the quote-unquote divine in lots of ways that are different from each other and to achieve different ends. I would contend they don't experience the divine in the same way as each other. So what does this all mean? What is happening? What if it's just that their experiences of the divine are culturally constructive? There's a thought for you. Let's keep going and see what Kreeft has for us next. Suppose someone says to you, all these experiences are either the result of lesions in the temporal lobe or neurotic repression. There we go, doing these sort of radical, it's either this or that. It has to be this or that. Okay. So either you've got a problem of the brain or you've got another kind of problem of the brain. So fine. In no way do they verify the truth of some divine reality. Yeah, I can say the second sentence without thinking that there's something wrong with these people's brains. Like they could just be indoctrinated. What might your reaction be? You might think back over that enormous documentation of accounts and ask yourself if that can be right. And you might conclude, no, given this vast number of claims and the quality of life of those who made them, it seems incredible that those who made the claims could have been so wrong about them, or that insanity or brain disease could cause such profound goodness and beauty. Yeah, incredible. I mean, is an argument from incredulity more clear than something like this? Like, you haven't even looked at what the experiences are. You've just put them all together in a basket and said, look at all these experiences. You're not sorting them out to see what they actually experienced, like what was going on. I mean, if I were going to explain why so many people through space and time have had these kinds of experiences, I would point to the human brain and say there must be something that the human brain does that produces these kinds of experiences and interpretations. Add that with the culture around where people are saying, like, oh, you experienced this thing? That's the Holy Spirit, or that's Zeus, or Aphrodite, or whatever, making that happen in your life. And voila, you don't need to have them either be injured in the brain, these lesions, or have some kind of mental impairment that is causing a psychotic break or whatever else that Crave thinks is going on. And yeah, they all could be mistaken. They all could have made the wrong interpretation. All right, let's wind this down. It is impossible to lay down ahead of time how investigation into this record of claims and characters will affect all individuals. You cannot say ahead of time how it will affect you, but it is evidence. It has persuaded many, and it cannot be ignored. Sometimes, in fact, we believe, very often, that record is not so much faced as dismissed with vivid, trendy labels. Craved has this tendency to just be very vague, to not actually talk about the specifics of what's going on, and it hides a multitude of sins, if you'll forgive that wording. So this notion of dismissing things with trendy labels, what if people thought, hey, maybe that's just something going on in the brain, and they were able to do tests that showed that this stuff is going on in the brain, and they were able to recreate spiritual experiences. What about that? Is that just a trendy dismissal with a label? I guess one of my problems with Crave's argument is that he will just accept all of these different experiences of the divine without noting the differences. The fact that people claim they experience the divine, and whatever that meant for them, is good enough for Craved. And it seems to me that if there was some all-powerful God, the creator God that Craved posits, this God would be a little bit more consistent about how he presented in us, how the divine presented in us. There are just too many experiences, too many ideas about who God is, if there is even a God, if it's just like a supernatural out there, for this to all be convincing to me. And it certainly does not point to Christianity in particular. As I was pondering Crave's argument, I was looking for an analogy that would explain what I think is going on with these people. And the best analogy I could think of has to do with medical problems we may experience. So here's some story time and a personal anecdote about myself and why I think that people don't always know what's going on in their own experiences. So there was one night that I had a lot of abdominal pain, and I was convinced that I had food poisoning. I won't go into all of the disgusting details about why I thought that or what was going on. In the end, it was pretty bad, and I was worried about dehydration, so I went to the emergency room, and it turns out I had appendicitis. And they operated, and I got better. I've had other situations where I had some medical situation, and my mind went to one place. Oh, I think that this is what's going on, and this is one of them. I thought I had food poisoning, and I had appendicitis, and it's good that I went to the emergency room because they were able to operate pretty quickly, keep me out of my pain and all this kind of good stuff. But my point in telling the story is, obviously, I knew that I was in pain. This is something that nobody else could know but me. I mean, they could see me, I could tell them, but I knew I was in pain, but I didn't know why. And the symptoms I had did not point, in my mind, to appendicitis. But what did I actually have? Appendicitis. And when they took my appendix out, I felt a hell of a lot better. So I guess I have the impression with these religious experiences, something similar is going on. That people have an experience that is authentic. They felt something quote unquote moved in them, whatever the experience was, right? And they attributed that to the divine, whatever the divine was. And possibly they did that because of people around them supporting that idea that what they were experiencing was the divine. They were maybe in a church or they were at some kind of religious function, And other people also felt that way and could confirm, yeah, I feel that elation too, or whatever. I'm just making up an event. You go to church, they play music, there's a sermon. It creates feelings in people, and then people say, oh, that was the Holy Spirit. And it wasn't. It was a totally human thing. You were being manipulated by your church. So there you go. There's Craif's argument from religious experience. Lots of people have had religious experiences, so therefore God. We've got the argumentum ad populum. We've got some arguments from incredulity. It's so incredible. It's inconceivable. What else could it be? So what did you make of Craif's argument this week? Put it in the comments below. And while you're down there, you know the drill. Like, subscribe, do all the YouTube stuffing, pour out your libations to Algorithmo and his consort Algorithma. And maybe you too will have something that you feel like is the divine. I'm not sure what an algorithm would create in you, but only you can know that. And you can put it in the comments below and tell us about it. And if you like what I do, you can buy me a coffee. Here are my kitties asking for kibble, because that's what they think it's all about, kibble. And they have divine experiences when they eat, especially when they eat the wet food, but also sometimes the kibble. I don't know what's next. I think I'm done with Craif for a while. But whatever it is, it's going to be stupid. Bye for now.